Good evening to everybody here tonight. My name is Kristen Donahue McCosh, and I'm honored to be here to honor the Sisters of St. Joseph and help them live their dream, as they helped me to live my dream many years ago as a young woman. Like thousands of other parochial school students throughout the Archdiocese of Boston, I owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to the congregation of the Sisters of St. Joseph for my lifelong love of learning. But personally, I owe them gratitude for much more than that. These dedicated sisters had the courage and foresight to allow me the opportunity to complete my education under the most adverse circumstances anyone could imagine over 30 years ago, when the world was a much harsher place and differences were seen as problems rather than attributes. I am a proud 1986 graduate of Mount St. Joseph Academy in Brighton. My journey to a high school diploma, however, was not an easy or an ordinary one. In June of 1983, when I was 15 years old, I sustained a spinal cord injury in a diving accident. It left me paralyzed. In an instant, my life was changed forever. I was no longer the bright, responsible, engaging leader of students that I had been just hours before. Suddenly, I was completely disabled, in a wheelchair, at a time when people hid such things from the world. This was decades before the disability community had found its voice, expressed pride in its people, or hoped for equal treatment in society. Following my accident, I endured months of treatment in the hospital, hours of grueling therapy, numerous visits to the emergency room, and worst of all, home tutoring. In those days, there was only one high school in the entire city of Boston that was accessible to students with disabilities, West Roxbury High. Having been raised in South Boston, I didn't even know where West Roxbury was. And I certainly didn't know any students who went there. My 15-year-old brain couldn't fathom going to a school with people who didn't know me before I was in a wheelchair. I could only conceive of one option: return to Mount St. Joseph to graduate with my friends, or drop out of school. I saw nothing in my future if I didn't return to the Mount, and I didn't think that was even a remote possibility until I met with a young nun, Sister Ellen Pumfret, who was principal of the Mount. She welcomed me back for my senior year. Nearly a decade before the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law, the Sisters of St. Joseph made my return to school possible. They didn't need a federal law to tell them what to do, because they operated by a divine law. My return to the Mount was a phenomenon at the time, something unheard of in the 80s, a student in a wheelchair attending a typical Catholic school. But the sisters were undaunted at the prospect of accommodating me. I honestly believe that it never occurred to them to refuse my request, no matter who objected, what barriers were presented, or the circumstances. They set right to work to make it possible. They rescheduled my classes for the first floor, well, everything except math, which was fine for me. The sisters overcame every obstacle to allow me to graduate with my class. Because of the extraordinary effort, a young girl in a wheelchair was able to fulfill her dream. The sisters' work on my behalf truly embodies the CSJ Founding Order's dream of unity and inclusion over division and separation. After all, this was the same order of nuns who arrived in Boston in 1873, and 4 days later opened a school for 200 students in the basement of a church. The same order of nuns who founded the first co-ed Catholic school in New England in 1877. Certainly they wouldn't be offset by a little thing like a wheelchair, and they weren't. I was a recipient of Christian charity and compassion as the sisters carried out their mission with kindness, understanding, and grace. I am so thankful for all the Sisters of St. Joseph have done for me. The thoughtful Sister Timothea, who imparted her love of literature, the sweet Sister Mary Dolores, who inspired me with her spirituality, and the loving Sister Florence, who tried fruitlessly to teach me to sing. And for countless others who taught me and my immediate family. My mother and her sisters attended Gate of Heaven School from 1st grade through 12th. My father was a graduate of Cathedral High School, and it was there that he developed a deep faith that carried him through the most difficult times of his life. My mother has often said to me that one of the most important things she and my father had in common was their devout faith in God, which had its roots in their Catholic education. My husband also received the benefit of a Catholic education at BC High. His aunt was an active member of the Congregation of the Sisters of St. Joseph for over 50 years, Sister Margaret Perrow, who many of you here may know. The sisters today have a rich history that continues to evolve. We see them working in congregational ministries that serve immigrant communities, help families to assimilate to American life, and truly do the Lord's work. The Literary Connection they run reaches out to adults to provide English language skills. Casterly House offers an early morning English program and homework lessons. And the Women's Table offers a circle of love and compassion to women in need. These are all critical programs that assist underserved populations to achieve their dreams. In the years since I graduated from the Mount, I've become an advocate for the disability community. I'm often called upon to speak of my experience as a teenager in the days before the ADA, when there were no disability rights, no awareness, and no inclusion. I always give credit to the Sisters of St. Joseph for including me. They gave me a solid foundation built on strength of character, respect for life, and a commitment to justice. I aspire every day to live up to the example that the sisters set for me, and in turn, I strive to be an example for others, a living example of the intrinsic worth of love, inclusion, and acceptance. Thank you all very much.